Good afternoon, everyone. So I think we can start our webinar now. Welcome. Thank you for joining this webinar. So the topic today is COVID-19 business support update, and I am happy to see all of you here. So over the last couple of weeks since the pandemic started, the Irish government announced many forms of support for small businesses and employees as well. There is a lot of information coming from many sources, and it may really feel quite difficult to follow and also overwhelming. So I decided to gather this information to make it easier for you. Today I'm going to give you some guidance on what forms of financial support you can get if your business was affected by COVID-19 pandemic. I want you to know that this information is sourced from official government websites and also social welfare companies registration office, local enterprise office, Microfinance Ireland, and so on. So I just want to assure you that the information is reliable. What are we going to cover today? I will be talking about the most important aspects because I want to give you an overview of several forms of help that you can receive. I'm afraid we will not have enough time to go through each of them in detail, but I will send you links to the relevant websites where you can get more information. Obviously, you can also email me if you have a more detailed query, and I'll do my best to get back to you as soon as possible. This webinar is recorded, and all of you will receive an email with the link to the video, so don't worry about taking notes during the presentation. What's the agenda for today? First, I'm going to do a quick introduction of myself and my company. Then we are going to talk a little bit about the current situation with COVID-19. I will go through all the areas, all the means of support available for Irish businesses, and mainly I will go into detail of social welfare support, updates from Revenue Office, access to funding for businesses, and other forms of business support. At the end, we are going to do a quick summary and a wrap up. So let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Anita Sajkiewicz. I am a founder and owner of a digital practice, Nimbus Accounting. It is a small family business. I started it a year ago, and prior to that, I spent over 20 years working in industry, mainly in big multinational companies, well, of different sizes. I gained experience in various financial and management accounting roles. I am a chartered accountant, ACCA, and my company is also a member of the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants. What is our mission? We help digital businesses across Ireland understand their numbers and manage business money by providing outsourced cloud accounting and virtual CFO services. I just want to mention here that we are not just traditional year-end accountants who prepare your annual accounts, tax returns, and look after your bookkeeping and payroll. On top of that, we provide our clients with ongoing support to help them manage finances in their business and to help them navigate through difficult times like the crisis we are experiencing at the moment. What's the current situation with COVID-19? I'm sure you follow the news every day and you are fully aware of how serious the situation is, and there is no need for me to go through that. So the main message is that the restrictions have been tightened further and we entered the full lockdown phase since Friday, the 27th of March. It does feel scary. Everyone will admit it. It makes you realize how fragile human life is. So the most important thing at the moment is to look after yourselves and your families. That's number one, without a question. But you also have to think about the business you are running. I know you probably worry a lot, ask a lot of questions, like for instance, is it going to survive the crisis? Will I have sufficient money to continue? Will I have to lay people off? There are surely loads of questions. But worrying constantly and just sitting and waiting, it is not going to help. You can still get support for your business. So the best thing you can do now is to learn about what help you can get and act quickly. What support is available for businesses in Ireland? The government announced many forms of support for small businesses and also employees in the country. I'm going to run through the list to highlight what sort of help you can get in each particular area. Then we will move on to talk about each of them in more detail. So the first area is social welfare support. The Department of Social Protection prepared a range of measures to provide income support to people affected by the pandemic. The most important scheme is COVID-19 Pandemic Unemployment Scheme. Then we have COVID-19 Enhanced Illness Benefit and Short-Time Work Support Scheme. What kind of support is available from the revenue? The major one is the temporary COVID-19 wage subsidy scheme. It's a big initiative by the government, and I have to say that it is still in progress. I will give you some most important information about it, but we will not have time to go into very detail of it. Then we are going to talk about what measures the revenue implemented to give you some relief in terms of filing tax returns, tax payments, and penalties. How can you get funding for your small business? This may be the most interesting part of the presentation for many of you. So the following state institutions have prepared a number of financial support options. This information comes from their official websites like Local Enterprise Office, Enterprise Ireland, Department of Business, Enterprise and Innovation, and also Banking and Payments Federation of Ireland. So the most important schemes are Business Continuity Voucher from Local Enterprise Office, COVID-19 loans from Microfinance Ireland, Enterprise Ireland support, and also financial support from DBEI and SBCI. I'll explain in more detail what this means later on. Other forms of support for businesses. So the Banking Corporation of Ireland has prepared some measures in terms of banking and loan repayments. There is also commercial rates deferral scheme, and I'm going to give you some updates from companies registration office. This will be relevant to limited companies operating in Ireland. Let's start with talking about support from the Department of Employment Affairs and Social Protection, so simply Social Welfare Office. The first, the most important, and the major one is COVID-19 Pandemic Unemployment Payment. I'm sure at this stage everyone has heard about it, but still I'm going to give you some most important information. So this is a payment of €350 per week. It is available to all employees and also self-employed people who have lost their job due to the pandemic. The scheme will be in place for the duration of the crisis. Who can qualify? As I mentioned already, both employees and self-employed people aged between 18 and 66 years, they have to live in the Republic of Ireland. They have to be employees who have lost their job due to COVID-19 or self-employed people who ceased trading due to the pandemic. This is very important actually. A self-employed person has to cease trading, so literally close their business in order to avail of this payment. There is one more condition. The qualifying people have been in employment or self-employment immediately before Friday, the 13th of March. As I mentioned earlier, this pandemic unemployment payment is paid at a flat rate of €350. This is a significant increase from €203, which was originally established. The government has increased the rate on the 24th of March. This payment will be paid for up to 12 weeks, but originally it was only 6 weeks. How can you apply? The easiest and quickest way is to apply online through My Welfare website. You just need to have MyGov ID. If you don't have it, it's a very quick registration process, and they will deal with your application pretty swiftly. Alternatively, you can download it from their website, the paper form, and send it by post to social welfare. Just to give you a couple of recent updates. So tens of thousands of people who lost their job as a result of the pandemic received their first benefit payment on the 31st of March. The Pandemic Unemployment Payment Scheme currently provides income support to over 500,000 recipients. That's really a huge number of unemployed people. That's an unprecedented case. The department, they are really doing their best to process the applications quickly. They have processed all of them until the 26th of March, and the first payments went through at the end of March. So if you have applied and you haven't received your payment, that means that either your application had errors or it didn't qualify, it was rejected. But the good news is that you can, if you think you are eligible for the payment, you can still reapply by following the same procedure. COVID-19 enhanced illness benefit. This is an illness benefit payment for people who have been diagnosed with COVID-19 or people who have to self-isolate. The weekly flat rate is 350 euro, and it is available for both employees and self-employed. The enhanced illness benefit will be paid for a maximum of 2 weeks if a person is self-isolating, or 10 weeks if a person has been diagnosed with the virus, with COVID-19. So as I mentioned earlier, qualifying people are the ones who are self-isolating on the instruction from a doctor. That's important. You have to be instructed by your doctor to self-isolate in order to avail of this payment. And the other condition is that you have to be absent from work or stay at home if self-isolating. So you need an official certificate from your GP, a traditional one, the same form that applies to a general illness benefit, and it can be submitted by the GP directly to social welfare, or you can send it by post in a normal way. The next one is short-time work support scheme. What is it? So this scheme has been in place previously. It's not a new scheme. They are just letting people know that people can avail of this if needed. So if this is the case, that you have to reduce your working hours in the business, your employees will qualify to apply for short-time work support. This is an income support payment. It is similar to job seekers benefit. So for any days that an employee is not working, they will receive the supporting payment. So the rate will be in the proportion of the maximum job seekers benefit weekly payment of 203 euro. For instance, if someone worked 2 days per week, they will receive 2/5 of the full rate of 203 euro, which makes about 80 euro. Who can qualify? Employees whose working hours have been reduced on a temporary basis, employees who previously worked full-time but now work 3 days or less, and they also need to satisfy other normal conditions for job seekers payment. So similarly to the previous one, the easiest way to apply is on My Welfare website, and it's really a quick and easy process. Just to mention here that there have been some changes in relation to social welfare payments, to the way how they are paid. On the 19th of March, the department announced that social welfare payments will be paid on a double 2-week basis. So what does it mean? This means that instead of being paid weekly, you will be paid your social welfare payment every 2 weeks. So why did they do it? Obviously, this reduces the need for people to leave home during the pandemic to collect social welfare payments in post offices, and it also supports social distancing. This new measure applies both to people who collect their payments at post office and to people who are paid into a bank account. And just to note that this change is already in place. So the first 2 weekly payments were made on the 23rd of March. Now let's move on to the support provided by the Revenue Office. So what's on offer here? So the major support and the most important one is the temporary COVID-19 wage subsidy scheme. I'm sure you have heard about it. It's quite a complex thing. They are still working to finalize it, so it's a work in progress, but the payments are going through, the refunds are going through, so the scheme is operating. What is it about? This scheme enables employees affected by the pandemic to receive significant support directly from their employers. The scheme is expected to last for 12 weeks from 26th of March until end of June 2020. It will be available to employers who keep employees on the payroll throughout the pandemic. That's really very important condition. The employer has to keep their employees on payroll in order to avail of this wage subsidy scheme. So why did they do it? Why did the government do it? So the main reason is that they want to prevent redundancies and preserve employment. That's the major goal. And also it facilitates the processing of the payments, which is much quicker and easier to process them through employers' payroll than if everyone had to submit the applications and they had to look at each application separately. So this temporary wage subsidy scheme replaces the previous COVID-19 employer refund scheme. And it also significantly increases the support payment from 203 euro per employee per week. What are the key features of the scheme? So from Thursday, 26th of March, the scheme will refund up to a maximum of 410 euro per each qualifying employee. Employers will make this payment through their payroll process. As I mentioned already, that's a very important condition. And also it is highlighted by the government that employers are expected to make their best efforts to maintain as close to 100% of normal income if possible. So they are expected to top up the payment to maintain the full amount of the salary for the employees. So what happens next? The revenue will refund the payments directly to the employer's bank account within 2 working days after the receipt of the payroll submission. Starting in later April, these subsidy payments of 70% of the weekly net pay will be introduced, up to a maximum of 410 euro. It's important to note that income tax and universal social charge will not apply to these subsidy payments. But it is quite confusing, but the government has clarified recently that it doesn't mean that they are tax-free. In many cases, the tax will be applicable, but it will not have to be paid at this stage. So the payments will be deducted probably next year. They haven't figured it out all yet, but it's just a good thing to know. It doesn't mean that it's totally tax-free. In terms of PRSI, employee PRSI will not apply to any subsidy or top-up payment. Employer's PRSI will not apply, but a reduced rate of 0.5% will apply to the top-up. Who does the scheme apply to? It applies to all employers from all sectors whose business has been affected by COVID-19. And as already mentioned a couple of times, employers who retain the staff are on payroll. And another important condition, the employers who experienced at least 25% reduction in revenue due to COVID-19. And actually, the revenue, they don't expect you to prove it when you are submitting your application. You just declare that your revenue reduced by at least 25%, but they reserve the right to examine you. So you need to keep the proof of the reduction of the revenue in case they ask you. What are other conditions? So employers are not able to pay the wages in full, and it will relate to employees who were on payroll as at 29th February, and for whom a payroll submission has already been made to revenue in the period from 1st February to 15th of March. What's the best way to apply? So employers or their agents can apply through ROS services on the revenue website. So first, employers have to register their interest to participate in the scheme. This is also done through ROS service, my inquiries within the ROS service. It's quite important because it requires some technical adjustments to your payroll software, to your payroll setup. So your payroll provider is the best person to assist you with processing the payments through payroll from the technical point of view. Just to mention that the revenue has issued a really detailed guides and guidelines on their website. There is a big document containing frequently asked questions and explaining most questionable areas of the scheme. So I really encourage you to visit their website and go through, if you are interested in the scheme, and go through the guides that they provide. What else can they help you with? So Revenue Office has provided some relief for taxpayers in relation to filing tax returns. So individuals and businesses in general should continue to file their returns, even if payment of the resulting in liabilities. Even if the payment is not possible. So what they are saying here, so you should prepare your tax return, VAT return, or income tax return the best way you can. If you are not able to calculate the detailed figures, you should submit a best estimate return. And then if it results in a liability, you should still submit it. But if you are not able to pay, they can postpone it, and you can negotiate with them in relation to that. So what else? The application of a surcharge for corporation tax returns for accounting periods ending June 19 onwards is suspended until further notice. What about tax payments and penalties? There are other measures for taxpayers who are experiencing tax payments and difficulties. So the Revenue announced that all debt enforcement activities suspended until further notice, so they will not chase you for overdue payments, and they will also not apply interest on any late payments. In relation to small businesses and in relation to January, February VAT returns, and also recently announced March and April VAT returns, it relates to them too. In relation to PAYE returns, February, March, and April PAYE liabilities. And so you don't have to pay them at the moment if you are not able to. A very important information here. A note to you: if you are experiencing any difficulties with timely tax payments, don't assume it will go away. You need to contact Revenue as soon as possible. Tell them about it, tell them about your difficulties. They understand the situation, and they will really work with you to find a viable solution. Access to funding, that's the hottest topic, I think, for small business owners. So the following state institutions have prepared a number of financial support options for small businesses affected by COVID-19 pandemic. So the information I'm going to present you comes from their official websites, Local Enterprise Office, Enterprise Ireland, and others. The first one, the new Business Continuity Voucher, available through Local Enterprise Office. So this voucher is designed for businesses across every sector. It relates to small businesses that employ up to 50 people. The value of the voucher is $2,500, and it can be used by companies and sole traders, both of them. So what's the purpose? It's designed to cover consultancy fees needed to develop short-term and long-term strategies to respond to the crisis. So important to note, the voucher covers 100% of the cost, which is not usual for this scheme because it usually requires you to participate in the cost. So with this one, you don't need to contribute any of your own money. They will finance 100% of the cost. What can you use the voucher for? So you can use it to pay third-party consultants who can develop your business continuity plan, who can prepare your cash flow forecast, for instance. It can also be used to assess current financial needs of your business, reduce variable costs, overheads, and so on. It can also be used for the implementation of remote working procedures, and also to obtain HR advice in relation to retaining or laying off your staff, your people. You can also use it to prepare an application, to pay someone to prepare an application for funding for you. So that's quite a useful one. So what are the ways to apply? There is a simple application form on Local Enterprise Office website. It's really a simple form. You just complete the basic information and send the completed form to them by email. Then an advisor will contact you and work with you through the application process. I would really encourage you to apply for this one. It's easy, it's quick. They have already granted it to many small business owners. It's not a lot of money, but definitely in this situation, you can find it useful. Leo also provides many other forms of support. Really, they have started new mentoring programs, consultancy programs. There is a lot of online networking and learning possibilities. So it's worth checking. All the information is on their website. The COVID-19 business loan from Microfinance Ireland, it is a government initiative to support small businesses throughout the current period of crisis. So the value of the loan is up to 50,000, which is twice the usual amount, because normally they provide loans up to 25,000. So it's really worth taking this opportunity and avail of this loan. The term of the loan is up to 3 years, and important, it's interest and repayment free for the first 6 months. So you get cash, you use it, and you don't worry about the repayments for the next 6 months. I think this is what all small business owners need to hear at the moment. And it has fixed repayments with no penalties or for repaying early. What are the qualifying conditions? So you need to be a micro business employing no more than 10 people and annual turnover of maximum 2 million. If your business was impacted by at least 15% reduction in revenues due to the pandemic. So I think majority of businesses will meet this condition. 15% reduction in turnover is not really a lot, and I'm pretty sure that many of you have experienced that. Another condition is that you do not qualify to receive a loan from commercial banks. What's the application process? Again, it is relatively quick and simplified. There are forms to download from their website. It's a simple website. It really points out what you need to do. Once you register your interest, an advisor will contact you and guide you through the process. So there is, help available in the application process. You will need to prepare a simple business plan, cash flow forecast, but don't worry, they provide templates for it. You also need to submit bank statement for the last 6 months and a credit report. It's worth mentioning here that you can also apply through your local enterprise office, and then you will receive a discounted interest rate of 4.5%. Usually when you apply through Microfinance Ireland, it is 5.5%. So you are getting 1% less if you apply through local enterprise office. Enterprise Ireland, they have a number of supports available to help businesses mitigate the impact of the pandemic. I will just point out the most important ones, because there is a lot of these 3 are the major ones, the most important, but I would really refer you to Enterprise Ireland website. They provide very detailed information about each of them. There are lots of links to more information, and you can really benefit from going through it. So what are the most important schemes? The first one is 200 million package for enterprise support, including rescue and restructuring scheme. So it is available for viable but vulnerable firms that need to restructure or transform their business. The next one is called Finance in Focus, and it is a grant of up to 7,200 euro available to Enterprise Ireland customers. And there is also a grant of 5,000. It's called Be Prepared grant, also for Enterprise Ireland clients who could benefit from further research and external expertise in examining their exposure to the crisis, to the pandemic. The Department of Business, Enterprise and Innovation, they offer a credit guarantee scheme for COVID-19. The purpose of this scheme is to encourage additional lending to small businesses by offering a partial government guarantee to banks against losses on qualifying loans. The guarantee at the moment, currently it is 80%. The funding starts from 10,000 and it is up to 1 million euro. And terms of the loans are up to 7 years. Who can apply to the scheme? Viable micro, small and medium enterprises who have fewer than 250 employees and turnover of maximum 50 million. They need to be independent and have less than 25% of their capital held by public bodies. How can you apply? So you should approach a participating lender who will make a decision on approving the application. So currently, Ulster Bank, Bank of Ireland and AIB are participating in the scheme. The department itself plays no role in the application or decision-making process. It is fully delegated to the participating lenders, so to the banks. I'd like to mention here that the department also provides a very useful tool called Business Continuity Planning Checklist, COVID-19. This checklist, you can download it from their website, and it's a very helpful tool which identifies some of the key risk areas to the continuity of your business. So it can really help you prepare to take necessary action to mitigate the risk. So what support is available from Strategic Banking Corporation of Ireland? They offer the COVID-19 Working Capital Scheme in partnership with the Department of Business, Enterprise and Innovation. The loans will be available similarly to the previous scheme through AIB, Bank of Ireland and Ulster Bank, and the approval of the loans is subject to the bank's own credit policies and procedures. What are the features of the loan? So the amount on offer is 200 million working capital scheme for eligible businesses impacted by the pandemic. The value of the loans is between 25,000 up to 1.5 million, and they will be available at reduced rates. So the maximum interest rate will be 4%, so it is really quite low and attractive. Long terms are ranging from 1 year to 3 years. Similarly to the previous scheme, who can apply? So again, viable micro, small and medium-sized enterprises, fewer than 250 employees and turnover of maximum 50 million. Again, they have to be independent and have less than 25% of their capital held by public bodies. Applications can be made through SBCI website, and the enterprise so the small business must first complete the eligibility application, and this is a form to check if they can qualify for the scheme, and then you will receive a letter of confirmation which you can present to the bank as part of the credit application process. Other support for businesses. In terms of banking and loan repayments, banks in Ireland set out a joint plan to support businesses and also personal customers. They have introduced the following measures. So first one, and I think the most important one, is the payment break of up to 3 months for businesses and also personal customers affected by the pandemic. So if you have a mortgage or a loan with any of the banks, you can now take a break from repaying it. You can take a break of 3 months. So the major banks, AIB, Bank of Ireland and Ulster Bank, have now introduced a really quick and easy online application process. So you can access it from their main website, and I would really encourage you to do it if you haven't done so already. It's a quick and simple thing, and they also they assure us that this application and the payment deferral will not impact negatively on the customer's credit record. That's very important, because normally if you applied for a payment break, it would affect adversely your credit records. Another small feature which is useful for individual customers, the limit for contactless credit card payments has been raised from 30 to 50 euro. Banks will also defer any court proceedings for 3 months, and they are assuring that they stand ready to provide working capital support. A very useful information about commercial rates deferral. The government agreed with local authorities, county councils, that they should defer rates payments due from the most immediately impacted businesses. Primarily, this will relate to retail, hospitality, leisure, and childcare sectors. And they have agreed to defer the rate payments for 3 months until the end of May. It's important to note here that this measure will be implemented by each local authority in its own area. So if you had to temporarily close or significantly reduce your operations during COVID-19, you should contact your local authority really immediately to negotiate the deferral. They will they restrict the decision to each local authority will do it separately. But on the other hand, if you can continue to pay your outstanding local authority rates, you should continue to do so in the normal way. In relation to limited companies operating in Ireland, the Companies Registration Office announced on the 20th of March that annual returns due to be filed by companies from now up to the 30th of June will be considered as filed on time if they are completed and filed by the 30th of June. Let's say your return is due on the 30th of April. If you file it by the 30th of June, they will still treat it as filed on time, and they will not charge you any penalties. The purpose of this is to enable businesses to focus on more immediate challenges at this time. However, if it is possible for you, you should continue to file the annual returns in the normal way, or only in exceptional circumstances you are allowed to file late. So it's time for a conclusion. To sum everything up, I just want to share this quote with you. The way to get started is to quit talking and start doing. I really like this quote. I think there is no need to add anything else here. I will just say that the worst thing you can do now is do nothing. You can't afford to do nothing in this situation, really. So please take this information with you and make a good use of it. I know it's a lot to process. There has been, there's a lot of information. Everything is new and confusing. I have to say it was quite challenging to pack everything into this presentation, but I wanted to give you a broader overview of where you can go depending on what you need. I am going to send a recording on this webinar to everyone who attended, so you have it handy and you don't need to worry if you forget anything. I will also send you a list of links to the website that I mentioned during this presentation, so you can use it as you need. If you still feel stuck and you don't know where to go and what to do, this is what we can do for you immediately, and we will not charge you for it. I mean, we and myself and my company, I really understand that the circumstances are difficult for many businesses, for majority of them, and I really want to help as much as I can. So this is what we can offer you immediately, free of charge. So first of all, we work using cloud software, totally remotely, so you will not have to contact us in person, which is very important in current circumstances. We can help you prepare a cash flow forecast for the next 12 months to make sure your business has sufficient money to go on. We can also advise you on financial help for your business in your particular case, and we can guide you on how to prepare relevant applications. We also offer online consultations of up to 60 minutes, absolutely free. Usually it is 30 minutes, but we have increased it due to the circumstances. So if you want to discuss anything, any worries, any concerns, you just give me a shout. We will schedule an online call and you will be able to ask all your questions. You can see my contact details on the screen at the moment. So if you need any help, just get in touch. Don't hesitate. There is no need to worry. We can just have a casual chat. So I can see we have a couple of minutes left. So I can see one question popped up in the chat. So let me take a look. So if you have any questions, I can try to respond to them, to answer them pretty quickly. So you can pop them in the questions and answers session. Okay, that's a thank you note from Brenda. Thank you very much, Brenda. I'm happy you enjoyed it. So please, if you have any questions, just pop them in the questions and answers box. I can't see any other questions coming in, so it's not, it's not too late. So if you have any questions, you can still submit them by email to me. Just one last note, please keep an eye on emails from me and announcements on social media. I encourage you to follow my social media profiles. I will be providing more advice and organizing more webinars to support you in this difficult time. So please keep an eye on them. So that's it for today. Thank you very much for attending, and I hope you enjoyed this webinar. Stay well and stay safe. Bye for now.